The massive Galactic Coalition flagship Eternal Dawn hung in the void, its sleek crystalline hull gleaming under the light of twin distant stars. Nearly 200 vessels surrounded it in perfect formation, a display of power meant to intimidate any who approached Coalition space. On the command deck, bathed in the soft blue glow of holographic displays, Commander Park stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the tactical readout with practiced indifference. Another routine patrol, he thought, stifling a yawn. The Coalition had maintained peace in this sector for over 70 years. The various alien species that made up their membership had long since learned that true civilization meant accepting Coalition authority. The quiet hum of the bridge was interrupted by a soft beep from the sensor station. "Admiral Kim, we've detected an unidentified squadron approaching from Sector 7, reported Officer Lee, her fingers dancing across the control interface without even glancing up. Her four eyes, a trait of her Nelvari heritage, blinked. In sequence as she processed the incoming data, Admiral Kim turned from his conversation with a reptilian diplomat, annoyance flashing across his weathered face. At 63 standard years, Kim had seen enough border incidents to know most were hardly worth his time. "Show me," he commanded, approaching the central holotable. The display shifted, zooming outward to reveal 12 small vessels moving in tight formation. They were oddly shaped, lacking the elegant curves of Coalition ships or the aggressive angles of known pirate vessels. Instead, they appeared almost boxy, utilitarian. Only 12 ships. Admiral Kim leaned forward, squinting at the projection. "Scan their hull configurations." Officer Lee's hands moved with practiced efficiency. The sensor beams swept across the distant vessels, analyzing their composition and design. A moment passed in silence. "Sir, they appear to be of Earth origin," she finally reported, a note of surprise in her voice. A ripple of murmurs spread across the command deck. Earth was barely a footnote in Coalition records, a single-species planet that had only achieved faster-than-light capability within the last decade. They had made no significant impact on galactic politics or trade. "Earth?" Admiral Kim laughed, the sound echoing across the command deck. Several officers joined in, though Commander Park merely smiled thinly. "That backwater planet that just figured out faster-than-light travel? What could they possibly want with us?" The hologram zoomed in further, showing the lead vessel in greater detail. It was small, perhaps a quarter the size of the Eternal Dawn, with visible weapons ports that looked almost primitive by Coalition standards. Its hull bore markings in the humans' primary written language, and what appeared to be their planetary emblem. The communication panel chimed with an incoming transmission request. Officer Bay, the communications specialist, adjusted her headset. "They're requesting diplomatic talks, sir. Are they now?" Admiral Kim stroked his chin thoughtfully. "Perhaps they wish to petition for Coalition membership, or beg for technological scraps." He turned to address his second-in-command. "Commander Park, what do you make of these humans?" Commander Park studied the vessels carefully. There was something about their formation that struck him as oddly precise. "They seem orderly, Admiral. Their approach vector shows discipline." "Discipline?" Admiral Kim scoffed. "Any species can teach its younglings to fly in formation. That hardly makes them worthy of immediate attention." He settled back into his command chair, its adaptive cushioning conforming to his body. "Let them wait," he waved dismissively. "The Coalition doesn't rush for primitives. We have more important matters to address." "Yes, Admiral," Officer Bay replied, sending a standardized holding message to the Earth vessels. Commander Park continued observing the human ships. Unlike the Admiral, he had studied Earth's rapid technological development with interest. 10 years ago they had been confined to their own solar system. Now they had achieved stable warp flight. Such progress was unusual. On the other side of the bridge, Officer Choi hunched over his sensor array, frowning at the readings. As the Coalition's foremost expert on energy signatures, something about the human vessels didn't align with known patterns. "That's odd," he muttered, adjusting the sensitivity. The readings showed energy flows that didn't match the visible propulsion systems. There were power spikes in regions of the ships that showed no external features at all. Officer Min glanced over from her station. "What is it?" "These Earth ships," Choi began, "their energy output doesn't make sense. They're generating power levels that should be impossible for vessels that size." He ran a second scan, then a third, each time getting the same unusual readings. The human ships were somehow masking or containing energy signatures that dwarfed their apparent technological level. "Probably just calibration errors," Choi finally said, resetting his equipment. "Our systems aren't designed to read such primitive technology properly." As the human ships maintained their position exactly at the edge of Coalition space, the bridge crew gradually returned their attention to normal duties. The diplomat resumed his conversation with Admiral Kim about trade routes. Officers filed reports. The daily rhythm of the flagship continued uninterrupted. Only Commander Park kept watching the human vessels on a secondary display. There was something about their stillness, their patience, that unsettled him. In his 20 years of service, he had seen many species approach Coalition space. The arrogant demanded immediate attention. The fearful approached with excessive caution. The diplomatic sent elaborate messages explaining their intentions. These humans did none of that. They simply waited, their 12 small ships holding perfect formation, neither advancing nor retreating. "What are you really here for?" Park whispered to himself, as the stars continued their slow dance behind the mysterious Earth fleet. 3 days passed as the human vessels maintained their position at the edge of Coalition space, neither advancing nor retreating. Their communication requests came at precisely the same time each day, following exact diplomatic protocol. Unusual for a species supposedly new to galactic relations, Admiral Kim finally relented, more from curiosity than courtesy. "Very well, let's see what these humans want," he announced to his officers. "Prepare the Grand Chamber. Let them witness proper Coalition splendor." The Coalition station, Harmony of Stars, dwarfed the human shuttlecraft that approached its docking bay. Officer Moon supervised the docking procedures, surprised by the shuttle's efficient landing despite the station's notoriously tricky approach vectors. "They handle their craft well for primitives," she noted to Commander Park. "Don't underestimate them," Park replied quietly. "New doesn't always mean primitive." The meeting chamber aboard the Coalition station was deliberately imposing. A cavernous room with 50-foot ceilings, walls lined with holographic displays showing the Coalition's vast territory. Gravity was set slightly higher than Earth standard, a subtle way to make human visitors feel weak and clumsy. The air held trace elements uncomfortable to human physiology, but harmless, just enough to cause mild discomfort. Even the seating arrangements placed visitors at a lower level than Coalition representatives. Admiral Kim sat above everyone else on an elevated platform, flanked by representatives of 12 different Coalition species. The reptilian saurians, with their jeweled scales, the insectoid vex with clicking mandibles, the gaseous nimbi contained in their floating environmental suits, all were positioned to create an overwhelming display of galactic diversity and power. When the humans entered, several Coalition officers exchanged looks of surprise. The 5-person delegation walked with the easy grace of those accustomed to varying gravity. Their breathing appeared normal despite the modified atmosphere. Most unexpected was their calm demeanor. They showed neither wide-eyed wonder nor intimidation at the deliberately overwhelming chamber. Captain Han of the Earth vessel, Dauntless, led the delegation. She was of average height for a human, with sharp eyes that seemed to note and catalogue every detail of the room and its occupants. Her uniform was simple, but immaculately maintained, with minimal decoration beyond a small planetary emblem and rank insignia. "Welcome to Coalition space," Admiral Kim began, his voice amplified to fill the chamber. "Earth has been granted this audience to discuss your request." He deliberately left the nature of their request unmentioned, a small power play to force the humans to restate their purpose. Captain Han bowed slightly, exactly the proper depth for her rank addressing a Coalition admiral, no more, no less. Several Coalition officers raised eyebrows or equivalent appendages at this unexpected knowledge of their protocols. "Thank you for receiving us, Admiral Kim," Captain Han replied, her voice clear and unwavering. "The United Earth government appreciates the Coalition's time." She made no comment about the 3-day delay or the obvious environmental adjustments meant to unsettle her team. Instead, she activated a small device on her wrist. A holographic display appeared between them, showing stellar cartography of the surrounding sectors. "We've detected unusual activity in this sector," Captain Han explained, highlighting several regions with a gesture. The map zoomed to show movement patterns across typically unused trade corridors. "Our intelligence suggests you may be facing an imminent threat." Admiral Kim examined the display with an exaggerated squint, then exchanged amused glances with his officers. Several of the alien representatives made sounds equivalent to chuckling. The gaseous NIMBY representative's containment suit bubbled with color patterns indicating amusement. How thoughtful of Earth to send 12 tiny ships to warn the most. "Powerful military force in the quadrant," Admiral Kim said, his voice dripping with condescension. "Perhaps next time send a single shuttle to save yourselves the resources." The coalition representatives chuckled more openly now. A Saurian officer flicked his tongue in what his species considered a dismissive gesture. Captain Han's expression remained neutral. The humans behind her showed no reaction whatsoever. She simply adjusted the holographic display to show more detailed movement patterns. "The threat is significant," she continued professionally. "We've been tracking a Void Raider battle group for the past 36 days. Their movements suggest—" "Void Raiders?" interrupted a Vex representative, her mandibles clicking rapidly. "Those disorganized pirates. They haven't dared approach Coalition space in decades." Captain Han zoomed the display further, showing detailed ship configurations. "These aren't typical raider vessels. They've upgraded their weapon systems and adopted new formation tactics." Admiral Kim raised his hand, silencing the discussion. "Captain," he interrupted, his tone patronizing, "perhaps on Earth 12 ships constitute a meaningful force. Here in civilized space, we measure our fleets in hundreds. Your concern is noted, but unnecessary." He stood, indicating the meeting was reaching its conclusion. "The Coalition has maintained peace in this quadrant for over 7 decades. We have sensors that can detect threats from 6 parsecs away, and response fleets stationed at every major junction point." Captain Han tried once more. "Admiral, with respect, our sensor technology operates on different principles than yours. We've developed specialized methods for tracking ships through—" "Different principles?" A tall, blue-skinned officer snorted. "You achieved FTL travel barely a decade ago. What could you possibly teach us about sensor technology?" The human delegation remained calm, despite the increasingly disrespectful tone. One of them, a younger man with focused eyes, began to say something, but Captain Han raised her hand slightly, silencing him. "Coalition database records show 17 Void Raider incursions in the past century," she stated flatly. "Each time, they employed new tactics that initial Coalition responses were unprepared for. We believe this will be the 18th incursion, but on a scale not previously—" "Captain," Admiral Kim cut her off again, his patience visibly thinning. "The Coalition appreciates Earth's enthusiasm for joining galactic affairs, but monitoring border security is our responsibility, not yours. Your warning is noted and will be filed appropriately." Commander Park, watching from the side, noticed something unusual. While the human captain was speaking, the other members of her delegation had been perfectly still, unnaturally so. No fidgeting, no weight shifting, not even blinking at normal intervals. It was as if they were in some kind of heightened state of awareness. Before Captain Han could respond to the Admiral's dismissal, the chamber's emergency alert system activated with a piercing wail. The holographic displays around the walls flickered, then shifted to tactical readouts. Officer Lee burst through the chamber doors, her 4 eyes wide with alarm. "Admiral, Void Raider fleet approaching. Over 80 warships." Her voice carried easily over the sirens. "They've somehow bypassed our outer sensor network. They're already inside the defense perimeter." The chamber erupted in chaos as Coalition officers rushed to stations. Admiral Kim's face drained of color as he stared at the tactical displays, showing the massive enemy fleet already in attack formation. Captain Han and her delegation remained completely calm amid the pandemonium. She simply deactivated her holographic display and turned to her team. "Exactly on schedule," she said quietly, though Commander Park was close enough to hear it. The station's emergency transponders blared as Coalition officers scrambled to battle stations. Admiral Kim, his earlier arrogance replaced by grim determination, strode rapidly toward the command center, with Commander Park and the other senior officers close behind. The human delegation followed uninvited, though no one had the time or inclination to stop them. "Get me a direct link to the Eternal Dawn," Admiral Kim barked as they entered the command center. The massive circular room buzzed with frantic activity as tactical officers called out reports and status updates. The main view screen flickered to life, showing the void of space suddenly torn open by dozens of hyperspace ruptures. The Void Raider vessels emerged like predators from the darkness, brutal ships bristling with weapons. Unlike the sleek uniform design of Coalition vessels, each Void Raider ship was unique, a patchwork of stolen technology, improvised armor, and jury-rigged weapons systems cobbled together from 100 different worlds. Most disturbing were the new modifications visible on their hulls. Pulsing red energy cores extended on pylons above the ships, technology that hadn't been seen in Void Raider fleets before. "By the Creators," whispered a NIMBY officer, his containment suit flashing patterns of alarm. "Those are Krell destabilizers, military-grade weapons banned by the Galactic Compact." Officer Moon's fingers flew across her console. "Confirming 87 hostile vessels approaching in attack formation. They're deploying fighter screens." The Coalition battle group moved to intercept, nearly 200 ships arranging themselves in the familiar layered defense pattern that had served them for decades. From the command center, they watched as the massive Coalition flagship Eternal Dawn took position at the formation's heart, surrounded by concentric rings of cruisers, destroyers, and fighter squadrons. "All Coalition vessels, engage according to Battle Protocol 7, Admiral Kim commanded, confidence still evident in his voice. The tactical display showed Coalition ships moving with practiced precision, their formation designed to create overlapping fields of fire while maximizing shield coverage. Weapons fire erupted across the vacuum as the two fleets engaged. Brilliant. Beams of energy crisscrossed space, punctuated by the flash of detonating missiles, and the smaller, more frequent pulses of point defense systems engaging enemy fighters. For the first few minutes, the battle proceeded as expected. Coalition shield technology had always been superior to anything the Raiders could field, and their coordinated fire began picking off the outer ships of the pirate fleet. Captain Han and her delegation stood quietly to one side of the command center, watching the tactical displays with unnervingly calm expressions. One of the humans, a tall man with close-cropped hair, whispered something to Captain Han, who nodded slightly. "Your forces are vulnerable," she said simply to Commander Park. "Those destabilizers aren't what you think they are." Before Park could respond, the tactical situation changed dramatically. The Void Raider vessels suddenly altered their formation, clustering into tight groups of 3. The pulsing red cores on their hulls synchronized, creating overlapping energy fields between ships. "What are they doing?" Officer Lee frowned at her readouts. The answer came moments later, as the Void Raiders executed a maneuver that should have been impossible for such a disparate fleet. In perfect synchronization, each 3-ship cluster targeted a single Coalition vessel, their combined destabilizer beams creating a resonance effect that bypassed shields entirely. The first Coalition cruiser hit by this tactic simply came apart. No explosion, no dramatic burst of flame, just a silent disintegration as its molecular bonds failed simultaneously. "Impossible," breathed Admiral Kim, watching in horror as the same fate befell 3 more Coalition ships in rapid succession. That first confidence evaporated within 20 minutes as Coalition ships began falling in rapid succession. The Void Raiders employed tactics the Coalition had never encountered, targeting command vessels with precision strikes. They seemed to know exactly which ships contained fleet coordinators and squadron commanders. The command center fell into stunned silence broken only by the constant stream of distress calls and damage reports. "Sir, we've lost 30% of our fleet," Officer Choi reported, voice wavering as he struggled to keep pace with the mounting casualties. "The Void Raiders have somehow adapted to our shield frequencies. They're cutting through our defensive lines like they aren't even there." On the main view screen, the Coalition's carefully organized formation had dissolved into chaos, Ships maneuvered desperately to avoid the coordinated Void Raider attacks, breaking formation and leaving gaps in their defensive screen. Through these gaps poured swarms of Void Raider boarding craft, small agile vessels that latched onto larger coalition ships like parasites. Second defense line has collapsed, reported Officer Moon, her voice steady despite the disaster unfolding before them. Void Raiders are deploying boarding parties on the Righteous Dawn and the Stellar Guardian. Admiral Kim's face had gone ashen. In 7 decades of service, he had never witnessed a coalition defeat on this scale. He gripped the edge of the tactical table, knuckles white. "Where are those Earth ships?" he demanded suddenly, remembering. The human vessels that had waited at the edge of the system. Officer Lee checked her sensors. "They've moved to Sector 9, holding position away from the battle," Admiral Kim sneered, a flash of his earlier arrogance returning. As expected, hiding from real combat. So much for their warnings about Void Raider tactics. Captain Han said nothing, but the corner of her mouth twitched in what might have been a suppressed smile. The tactical officer's voice cut through the tense atmosphere. "Sir, the Eternal Dawn reports critical systems failure. Admiral Kyo is requesting emergency evacuation protocols." "The flagship can't fall," Kim whispered. "If the Eternal Dawn were captured or destroyed, it would represent the greatest coalition defeat in living memory." As if in answer to his fears, a new alert sounded from Officer Choi's station. He straightened at his console, eyes widening as he processed the incoming data. "Sir, the Earth vessels are moving," he called out, surprise evident in his voice. "They're accelerating at—" "That can't be right." He rechecked his readings. "They're pushing over 300 GSUs. That's 3 times standard military acceleration." All eyes in the command center turned to the tactical display as the 12 human ships streaked across space, moving faster than anything their size should have been capable of. Rather than spreading out, they arranged themselves in a configuration no one had ever seen before. A 3-dimensional geometric pattern that seemed to pulse and shift as they moved, each vessel maintaining perfect position relative to the E. Others despite their incredible speed. "What formation is that?" demanded Admiral Kim. "Unknown, sir," replied Officer Lee, her 4 eyes blinking rapidly as she tried to track the human vessels. "I've never seen anything like it." The tactical display zoomed in on the human fleet as it tore through space toward the heart of the Void Raider formation, directly toward the massive black vessel that served as their command ship. "They're going to be annihilated," muttered a Saurian officer, shaking his scaled head. As the human ships approached weapons range, the nearest Void Raider vessels swung around, bringing their destabilizer beams to bear on the new threat. Red. Energy lanced out, aiming for the lead human vessel. What happened next defied explanation. The destabilizer beam, which had torn apart coalition warships with ease, seemed to bend around the human vessel, its energy dissipating harmlessly into space. A communication from Captain Han reached all channels, her calm voice broadcasting to every ship in the battle. "Coalition fleet, please withdraw to safe distance. We'll handle this." Admiral Kim turned to face the human delegation, rage and confusion battling on his features. "What is the meaning of this? What are you doing, Captain?" Han met his gaze steadily. "Exactly what we came here to do, Admiral." She gestured to the tactical display, where her 12 ships were now engaging the entire Void Raider fleet. "You might want to watch. It's about to get interesting." Admiral Kim watched in disbelief as the Earth ships executed maneuvers that should have been physically impossible. Their vessels moved with a fluidity that defied conventional space combat tactics. When Void Raider weapons fired at them, the human ships seemed to flicker in and out of normal space, becoming momentarily transparent before reappearing elsewhere, the deadly energy passing harmlessly through the space they had occupied milliseconds before. "What are we seeing?" he whispered, eyes fixed on the tactical display where the small human fleet was dancing through the massive Void Raider armada like ghosts through solid walls. Officer Lee's fingers flew across her sensor station, trying to capture and analyze the phenomenon. Her 4 eyes widened simultaneously, a rare expression of complete shock for her species. "Some kind of phase shift technology," she replied, voice hushed with awe. "They're partially slipping between dimensions during combat. My sensors show quantum fluctuations around their hulls. They're existing in multiple states simultaneously. The command center fell silent as Coalition officers watched the battle unfold. Even the NIMBY representative, whose gaseous form rarely held still, remained motionless in his containment suit, all attention fixed on the display. The lead human vessel, Captain Hans Dauntless, accelerated directly toward the Void Raider flagship, a massive black monstrosity 3 times its size. The Raider vessel fired its main destabilizer cannon, the red beam cutting through space with enough power to shatter a small moon. Instead of attempting to dodge, the Dauntless flew straight into the beam and through it. For a brief moment, the human ship became translucent, the destabilizer energy passing through its hull without effect. As it solidified again, ports opened along its flanks, revealing weapons systems unlike anything the Coalition had ever documented. Rather than conventional energy weapons, the human ship released what appeared to be small spheres that accelerated toward the Void Raider vessel. When they made contact with the pirate ship's shields, they didn't explode. Instead, they phased through the energy barrier as if it didn't exist, then reappeared inside the shield perimeter. "Impossible," breathed Officer Choi. "Nothing can penetrate shields without collapsing them first." The spheres attached themselves to key points on the Raider vessel's hull, then pulsed with blue energy. The massive ship shuddered, its lights flickering wildly as systems failed across its length. Its weapons went dark, thrusters sputtered and died, and its shields collapsed completely. Meanwhile, the other 11 human ships had arranged themselves in a perfect 3-dimensional lattice around a cluster of Void Raider vessels. Blue energy beams connected the human ships to each other, forming a glowing geometric cage that trapped the Raiders inside. "What are they doing now?" demanded Admiral Kim. His question was answered when the energy lattice suddenly contracted. As it did, the Void Raider ships caught within seemed to distort, their hulls compressing as if under enormous pressure. Metal screamed and buckled, hulls crumpled like paper toys, and reactor cores imploded in silent flashes of light. "Some kind of spatial compression field," Officer Moon whispered. "They're manipulating the fabric of space itself." The human ships moved with perfect coordination, their weapons finding gaps in Void Raider defenses that shouldn't have existed. Despite being outnumbered nearly 7-1, the Earth fleet dismantled the pirate armada with clinical precision. After the initial shock, the Void Raiders attempted to regroup, concentrating their fire on a single human vessel, the smallest of the 12, barely the size of a Coalition scout ship. 6 Raider vessels surrounded it, all firing simultaneously with every weapon they possessed. The tiny human ship didn't attempt to escape the encirclement. Instead, it spun rapidly on its axis, creating what appeared to be a sphere of energy around itself. When the Void Raider weapons struck this field, their energy was absorbed, causing the sphere to glow brighter. Then, in a move that left the Coalition officers gasping, the human vessel redirected the absorbed energy, sending it back at its attackers with pinpoint accuracy. 6 Void Raider ships exploded simultaneously, their own weapon energy used against them. "Their targeting systems are predicting shield modulations before they happen," Officer Choi reported, analyzing the sensor data streaming in. "And their own defenses. It's like they're calculating weapon trajectories and simply not being where the shots land." On the main view screen, 2 human vessels worked in perfect tandem to disable a Void Raider heavy cruiser. The first ship released what appeared to be a cloud of metallic dust that enveloped the pirate vessel. The second human ship then emitted a precise pulse that caused the particles to resonate. The Void Raider's hull didn't rupture or explode. Instead, it simply separated into perfectly clean sections, like a fruit precisely cut by an invisible knife. "How are they coordinating so perfectly?" Commander Park asked, addressing the question to Captain Han, who stood watching the battle with calm satisfaction. "Quantum entanglement communications," she replied without taking her eyes off the display. "No transmission delay, no possibility of interception, no way to jam the signal." The remaining Void Raiders, recognizing their defeat, attempted to retreat. Their engines flared as they tried to reach the safety of hyperspace. But the human vessels moved to intercept with that same impossible speed, cutting off their escape routes. 4 human ships took up positions at what appeared to be random points in space, Energy beams connected them, forming a tetrahedral shape. As the fleeing Void Raiders approached what should have been open space, they suddenly found themselves redirected back toward the center of the battle. "They've created some kind of spatial fold," Officer Lee reported in disbelief. "They're bending the fabric of space to trap the raiders." One desperate Void Raider captain tried ramming his vessel directly through the human formation. His ship, easily 4 times the mass of the human vessel in his path, accelerated to maximum speed on a collision course. The human ship didn't move until the last possible moment. Then, just as impact seemed inevitable, it executed a maneuver that defied the laws of physics as the Coalition understood them. The vessel seemed to fold around itself, disappearing from its original position and reappearing instantly behind the Void Raider ship. "Did it teleport?" gasped Officer Bay. "No," replied Officer Lee. "Something far more sophisticated. They're manipulating dimensional boundaries." The human ship fired a single precise shot at the now exposed engine core of the Void Raider vessel. The pirate ship didn't explode. Its systems simply went dark as all power failed simultaneously. Within 45 minutes of engaging, the once fearsome Void Raider fleet was reduced to scattered debris and powerless hulks drifting in space. Not a single human vessel showed significant damage. They regrouped into their original formation, 12 ships arranged in a perfect geometric pattern that seemed to pulse with energy. Admiral Kim sank slowly into his command chair, his worldview fundamentally altered. Everything he thought he knew about Earth's capabilities had been proven catastrophically wrong. "Their technology," he began, then faltered, unable to find words adequate to describe what they had just witnessed. Commander Park finished the thought for him. "It's not just advanced, Admiral. It's operating on principles we don't even understand." Captain Han turned away from the tactical display to face the Coalition officers. The calm expression she had maintained throughout had never wavered. "Your remaining vessels have been secured," she stated matter-of-factly. "We've dispatched medical teams to assist your wounded." Admiral Kim stared at her, struggling to reconcile the humble diplomatic petitioner from hours ago with the representative of this clearly superior force. "Why?" he finally managed to ask. "Why maintain the pretense? Why not simply tell us what you were capable of?" Captain Han's expression softened slightly. "Would you have believed us, Admiral? Or would you have seen it as the empty boasting of a primitive species?" The silence that followed was answer enough. The command deck was silent as Captain Han's transmission appeared on the main screen. The backdrop behind her showed the bridge of the Dauntless, a stark contrast to the ornate Coalition command centers. The human bridge was minimalist, functional, with crew members visible at their stations. What had once seemed primitive to Coalition eyes now appeared elegant in its simplicity. "Admiral Kim," she began, her voice level and free of condescension. "Despite her overwhelming victory, the threat has been neutralized. We've disabled 82 Void Raider vessels. The remaining 5 have been permitted to retreat with a warning." The tactical display confirmed her report. The battle zone was littered with disabled Void Raider ships, their life support systems still functioning, but weapons and engines completely neutralized. Coalition rescue vessels were already moving to recover survivors from their own damaged ships. "The Void Raiders have been targeting this sector for some time," Captain Han continued. "We attempted to warn you. Our intelligence networks have been tracking their buildup for months." Admiral Kim studied her face on the screen, seeing it now with new eyes. The calm confidence she had shown throughout wasn't arrogance, it was the certainty of someone who knew exactly what they were capable of. He cleared his throat, swallowing his pride. "Captain Han, I must acknowledge our error in judgment. Your intervention saved countless Coalition lives today." The assembled Coalition officers shifted uncomfortably. The admission of error from such a high-ranking official was unprecedented. "We would like to understand how—" Admiral Kim hesitated, searching for words that wouldn't sound accusatory. "Your technology exceeds anything we've encountered in centuries of galactic exploration." Captain Han nodded slightly. "This was merely a reconnaissance unit," she explained, as casually as if discussing the weather. "Earth maintains a defensive policy, but we've been developing our capabilities independently for decades." "Independently?" questioned Commander Park. Without sharing advances with the galactic community, we observed before we engaged, Captain Han replied. Your coalition, while impressive in many ways, has certain tendencies toward technological dominance over less advanced species. We chose to develop in isolation until we could engage as equals. As she spoke, one of the tactical displays shifted to show close-up scans of the human vessels. Now that the battle was over, the ships had deactivated some of their stealth systems, revealing more of their true nature. What had appeared to be simple metal hulls now showed intricate patterns of exotic materials that seemed to flow and shift even as they watched. Officer Lee leaned toward Admiral Kim, keeping her voice low as she reported her findings. Sir, analysis suggests their technology is at least a century beyond our most advanced systems. Their hulls contain elements we can't even identify in our database. On another screen, medical reports were coming in from the rescue teams. Officer Bay studied them with growing amazement. Admiral, the human medical teams they sent to assist our wounded, they're using treatment methods we've never seen. Injuries we would consider fatal are being stabilized in minutes. Admiral Kim nodded gravely, absorbing these revelations. He turned back to the screen where Captain Han waited patiently. Captain Han, the Coalition would be honored to establish proper diplomatic relations with Earth. I will personally recommend to the Council that your world be granted full membership status immediately. We look forward to it, Captain Han replied, with a small smile that softened her formal demeanor. Our ships will remain in the sector until your reinforcements arrive. We wouldn't want any remaining Void Raider vessels to take advantage of your current vulnerability. The offer was practical rather than boastful, but it underscored the new reality. The supposedly primitive humans were now protecting the mighty Coalition. Thank you, Admiral Kim replied simply. As the transmission ended, the command deck remained silent for several long moments. The human delegation that had observed the battle from the corner of the room now moved toward the exit, their mission apparently complete. Admiral Kim turned to his officers, his expression grave. Send word to Coalition Command immediately. Everything we thought we knew about the balance of power has changed. Commander Park stepped forward. Sir, if I may, I've been reviewing our first contact protocols. There are 17 references to guiding less advanced species and 23 instances of technological superiority as a basis for diplomatic relations. Have new protocols drafted immediately, Admiral Kim ordered. We will meet Earth as equals, or perhaps more than equals. Across the command deck, damage reports continued to flow in. Nearly 40% of the Coalition fleet had been destroyed or severely damaged before the human intervention. Repair estimates ran into months. Had the Earth ships not been present, Officer Choi glanced at the tactical display where the 12 Earth ships had resumed their formation. They hovered in space with perfect precision, their hulls occasionally shimmering with that strange phase effect. They came in peace, he said quietly. Imagine if they hadn't. The implications hung heavy in the air. Had Earth chosen aggression instead of diplomacy, the Coalition might never have known what hit them. In his private quarters later that day, Admiral Kim reviewed the battle footage for the 5th time. He paused on an image of the smallest human vessel, effortlessly disabling a Void Raider dreadnought 3 times its size. Looking at it from this perspective, he could see subtle design elements he'd missed before. The hull wasn't primitive at all, but constructed with such advanced principles that its sophistication had been invisible to their senses. A chime announced Commander Park's arrival. The officer entered carrying a data tablet. Sir, I've been authorized to share this with you. It's from Earth's historical archives. The screen displayed what appeared to be an ancient human text. The translation read, "Appear weak when you are strong." Sun Tzu, Commander Park explained, a human military philosopher from their pre-space era. Admiral Kim nodded slowly. They've been following this philosophy all along. There's more, sir. Commander Park hesitated. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected something at the edge of human territory. Massive constructs that dwarf anything in our records. We believe they may be defensive installations. How massive? Planet-sized, Admiral, and there are hundreds of them. Admiral Kim set down the tablet, a chill running through him despite the room's comfortable temperature. We came very close to making a terrible mistake today, he said softly. Send a personal message to Captain Han. Tell her I look forward to learning from Earth. As the Coalition flagship limped home under the watchful protection of 12 unassuming human vessels, word spread throughout the fleet. The myth of Coalition superiority had been shattered in a single day, not by conquest, but by revelation. Humans hadn't come to dominate. They hadn't come to intimidate. They had simply come to help, carrying power beyond imagination with the humility to use it wisely. The end.